Diving into the weeds of legal innovations in blockchain. This panel will be moderated by Rachel Wolfson. Panelists include Rick Tapia, Rustin Diehl, Erin Friez. If you're out there in the audience, please come up on stage. Remember to please keep the conversations down to a minimum in the back. Thank you so much.
Great job, Rachel. Thanks, Ray. Okay, it's getting later into the evening, so I hope everybody's still awake. Get some coffee or a drink. This is a really interesting panel. I'm excited to moderate this one. This is called Legal Innovations in Blockchain. Okay, so I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves briefly, and then I'll go into some questions.
Erin Friez, I'm the COO and CCO of Digital Ascension Group.
Yeah, Rick Tapia, General Counsel at Digital Ascension Group.
Rustin Diehl. I'm with Allegis Law. I do tax planning and entity structuring for people who own digital assets.
Great. Okay, first question is for Erin. So investing in digital assets can be risky. What regulations and legal frameworks should investors keep in mind when investing in cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, the first thing I'll say is that you have to address the elephant in the room, which is that there's regulations in this space are lacking and there's not a lot of clarity. In the crypto space, we often say that there's regulation by enforcement. And what we mean by that is that instead of having clear guidelines and we all know where the guardrails are, often you are trying to do the right thing until the end. You don't know if that's the right thing until the SEC comes in and slaps you with a lawsuit. And so there's a lot of these lawsuits going on across the country right now for different providers in the crypto space. And we're all sort of like waiting to see what the outcome is. What that means if you're going to enter this space, I think, if we're talking about how do you navigate this space in this current environment, is that you cannot do it alone. You have to have a partner that understands the space. And what does that mean? You have to have a partner that understands the financial market space, that has a background in traditional financial markets, that understands those regulations. And on the other side, also understands crypto markets and has a deep understanding of who those players are, who's doing the right things, because the things that you care about in crypto might not necessarily be the things that you care about in the traditional space. You have to find somebody that can really bridge that gap for you. And somebody that is going to stay up to date on what's happening, because what's happening in the crypto regulation space today is likely not what's going to be happening in the crypto regulation space tomorrow. And I know we're going to talk in a little bit about sort of like what's changing and what's coming for the crypto regulation space, but you really need to find a partner that understands that and is going to be able to help you navigate that space. So, in the current regulatory environment, in the legal frameworks that do exist, having the right partner in the space, to me, is the best advice that I could give.
Yeah, Erin, that's great advice. I know when I got into cryptocurrencies, I found someone specializing in taxes in crypto. So, Rustin, we're going to just skip to you and then we'll come back to Rick. But you know a lot about the tax legal framework. So, do you want to kind of talk about that and the importance there?
The tax and legal framework for cryptocurrency is very much being founded on old tax principles. As it currently stands, digital assets are being treated as property. That could be tangible property like coins, like gold coins. The same taxes that apply to the exchange of property, like gold coins, applies to the exchange of cryptocurrency. But there's added nuance, because if you stake your cryptocurrency, if you enter into a liquidity pool, if you enter into lending transactions, you're going to get taxed on that as ordinary income. So we have kind of a mishmash of the application of old taxation principles to this new type of asset. It's like putting old wine in a new container. And we have this new container cryptocurrency trying to deal with the old tax system. And it's leading to some very unwieldy results. I wish that they were being treated for regulatory and tax purposes as foreign currencies. I wish that there was an exemption. There have been some proposed congressional exemptions from taxation for transactions under $800, but those have not gone through yet. And so now we're seeing the emergence of a 1099-DA, a digital assets 1099. We're seeing at the top of your 1040 individual tax return reporting of any crypto transactions, which includes staking, lending, liquidity pools, any participation in AMMs. And we just had the addition of digital assets onto the 709 gift tax return this last year. So we're seeing the implementation of tax rules. But as I look through the revenue procedures, as I look through the revenue rulings applicable to digital assets, they're unwieldy. They don't quite look at things the way that I would. They don't look at hard forks in the same way that I would look at a divisive reorganization transaction. Instead, they have what they consider to be a recognition event in a hard fork that I think should be treated tax-free. So on the tax side of things, we really have got a little bit of a mishmash of old systems and new assets. That's the federal level. At the state and local level, we're starting to see the emergence of a variety of laws. And there are certain jurisdictions that have been more advancing of new laws than others. The cowboy state, Wyoming, has advanced very interesting money transmitter laws, as well as digital asset specific entities like the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, LLC, or they call it ALLOW. They've also just put out the Decentralized Unincorporated Nonprofit Organization for de minimis nonprofits that are based on digital assets. My own state, Utah, was the first jurisdiction to put out a specific entity for decentralized autonomous organizations. And when I worked with our legislators, I recommended they allow that rule to toggle together with the federal check-the-box regulations, which allow you to select your type of entity taxation. We didn't go that far, but we did permit Utah DAOs, which are a unique entity. They're not a wrapper on a limited liability company. We allow them to select either corporate or partnership taxation. So I've currently reached out to the Uniform Law Commission, which promulgates nationwide laws that are adopted most of the time in all 50 states. And I've got a recommendation going through committee to help draft a uniform rule for creating crypto companies. So we're hoping from both the legislative side to put out some uniform laws. We're hoping from the regulatory side to get a little different treatment that's more commensurate with the type of assets that digital assets are. And from the judiciary, we're now defaulting to them, and they're filling in all the gaps that our legislators and our regulators have not yet picked up.
I want to shout out to Texas Blockchain Council because they're doing a lot in terms of writing the regulations here in Texas. If you guys don't know Texas Blockchain Council, I'm a member and they're just doing really great work. So it's up to us to help make this space mature and regulated. Okay. So, Rick, next question. Blockchain and AI are being seen more often. Can you please explain the legal frameworks around these two technologies?
Well, there's certainly a lot that we could get into, and I don't want to bore all the non-attorneys here. But when we think about blockchain technology and artificial intelligence, we're really looking at two emerging technologies that are going to really disrupt the way that we look at things. And some of our previous panelists talked about it, but we didn't talk a lot about AI. So I do want to spend a couple of moments on that. And when we look at things from kind of a regulatory standpoint, it does kind of mirror what we're seeing with blockchain technology in the sense that we are building new regulatory frameworks for a new technology that we quite frankly have not seen before in society. So one of the things that we look at is, okay, what are some of the states doing? So Russ and I talked a little bit about this before. So the state of Colorado, for instance, has a Colorado Artificial Intelligence Act. And a lot of it has to set with the guardrails and frameworks that you put in place for deployers of artificial intelligence, developers, and what are some of these biases that are coming out from artificial intelligence, say in a scenario where you're looking at doing a lending product for somebody and there might be AI that's utilized in the process for evaluating somebody, but then there might be discrimination based on gender or religion, things like that. So we see that on the human side of things, but how do you account for that when an AI is also actually doing the same thing? So the state like Colorado is putting frameworks in place, and we're already starting to see adoption of that as well. But we also kind of see now a possible convergence as well. So I sit on the New York State Bar Association's task force for emerging technology and assets. And one of the things that we're seeing happen in certain counties is with artificial intelligence is the use of AI and blockchain technology for body cam footages for police officers. So one of the things that we're exploring is how can you use artificial intelligence to not only verify the authenticity of a police body cam video, but also utilize blockchain technology to create a hash. And for those that don't understand, is essentially a hash is kind of a mark on a blockchain that allows you to create a digital footprint on the blockchain that verifies the authenticity of a particular item or asset. So in this instance, you could actually verify the authenticity of a particular video and then also verify that the video itself has not been altered or changed in any way. And if we think about this from a practical perspective, and how disruptive it is, as kind of, Connor and some of our other previous panelists were saying, is you don't see it on the front and surface level, but when you get down to the back end details that truly affect our day-to-day lives, both of these technologies can disrupt them in many positive ways and in some ways negative, which as myself as an attorney, I definitely want to make sure that people understand those as well.
Thank you. We have a little bit of time left. Anybody want to share final thoughts or anything else?
Yeah. So what I would tell everybody in the audience is if, whether you're a blockchain AI enthusiast or you're kind of learning about things for the first time, is spend some time really learning about some of the ways that it can disrupt. And, from also kind of a little bit of a political standpoint as well as, talk to your local state representatives wherever you reside and ask them about where they stand on emerging technologies and blockchain technology and crypto assets, because it is important and it is standing to disrupt many different ways of life that we have here in our country today.
As you're moving into your own portfolios, think very carefully about the way you structure them. Make sure you've got yourself double wall protected. As I said earlier, be cautious of only using a limited liability company. Be careful of the way you put things in there. Consider also using trusts and consider using more than one company. There's a lot of reasons, both tax and asset protection, to set up a structure very carefully.
The last thing I'll say is, as you look at where regulation is going next, there's several different things to look out for. There's a lot of proposed legislation right now around how to regulate these assets, which regulator has jurisdiction over these assets. A lot of proposed legislation when it comes to stablecoins, what types of stablecoins are appropriate, what type of backing is appropriate for these stablecoins. But to me, the biggest thing that you need to watch is the court cases. Right now, there is a court case with the SEC against Consensus that's happening here in Texas. There is a motion that is due towards the end of the year, I think in November, that will really force the SEC to lay out its argument against why they think these assets are securities. It's going to tell us a lot about what the future of this industry is going to look like. So I think you really got to, watch the court cases that are happening.
Definitely. And my final thought is I think it's important to understand where the policymakers stand on cryptocurrency and digital assets. I just did a great in-person interview with Senator Ted Cruz, filmed here in Texas, in Denton, Texas. So if you guys want to check that out, he's very bullish on Bitcoin. He's also very funny. So I recommend checking that out on Web3 Deep Dive podcast. And that's it. Thank you.